You live your life thinking everything is normal, a routine, a pattern, something familiar. You wake up, check your phone, react to people, feel certain emotions, ignore others, and then go back to sleep. But have you ever stopped and questioned it? Are you really living or are you being lived? Every habit you have, every reaction you give, every thought you believe, is it truly yours or are you following a script you were never shown? This outline explores that first crack, the moment when reality starts to feel unstable. When you begin to sense that your mind is not fully yours, but a system shaped by everything around you. And once that crack appears, your ego starts to shake, because you always believed you were in control, but maybe you never were. The moment you realize you are not thinking, but being thought, your entire reality begins to collapse. The most dangerous prison is not the one you can see, but the one you can't. No walls, no bars, no guards. Yet people spend their entire lives trapped inside it. This is the prison of your mind. Since childhood, you were given beliefs. What is right, what is wrong, who you are, who you can never become. Slowly, you accepted them and turned them into your identity. Now you don't even question them. You think you're free, but you're only moving within invisible limits. And the worst part, you don't even realize you're trapped. When the prison is invisible, freedom becomes just another illusion. Thousands of thoughts pass through your mind every day. But have you ever asked, where do they come from? Do you choose them or do they just appear? This outline dives into a disturbing question. Who is actually thinking? When you observe closely, you realize thoughts arise on their own, without your permission. And that realization hits hard. Because if you are not creating your thoughts, then what are you? The ego says, I'm in control. Reality says, you are just watching. If you can't control your thoughts, then who are you really? Every day feels new, but it isn't. Same emotion, same reaction, same mistakes, just different situations. You think you're moving forward, but you're stuck in a loop. Your past shapes your thoughts, and your thoughts recreate your future, over and over again. This loop becomes so normal that you don't even notice it. You call it life, but it's repetition. You're not living, you're repeating. There's a voice inside your mind guiding you, judging you, warning you. You trust it. You believe it's you. But what if it's not? This outline questions that inner voice. It shows how that voice is built from conditioning. Your parents, society, your past. It's not your true self. It's a programmed response. Yet you follow it your entire life without ever questioning it. The voice controlling you is not you. You take your identity seriously. Your name, your story, your personality. But what if all of it is just a story? This outline breaks down the illusion of identity. Everything you think you are is something you built over time. And if that story changes, who are you then? This realization is terrifying because it feels like losing yourself. When your identity dies, you finally begin to exist. People think pain is the problem, but comfort is the real trap. This outline shows how you stay in your mental prison not because you're forced, but because it feels safe. Your mind avoids discomfort, avoids change, and keeps you stuck in familiar patterns. You call it stability, but it's actually stagnation. You are not trapped because you can't escape. You are trapped because it feels comfortable. Freedom sounds beautiful, but it's terrifying. This outline explores why people fear true freedom. Because freedom means uncertainty, responsibility, and loneliness. Your ego doesn't want that. It prefers the known, even if it's a prison. You don't want freedom. You want a more comfortable cage. There comes a moment when you see through everything. A small glimpse of truth. This outline is about that moment when you realize your thoughts, your identity, your reality might all be illusion. It's painful, but it's also the beginning of awakening. The truth doesn't set you free, it breaks you first. After everything is seen, everything is questioned. One question remains, what now? This outline brings the viewer to that final decision point. Will you face the truth or return to comfort? Will you wake up or go back to sleep? Can you handle the truth or do you prefer your illusion? There comes a moment in life, quiet, almost unnoticeable, when something inside you begins to question everything. The way you think, the way you react, the way you see the world, it all starts to feel off. This outline explores that fragile moment when the illusion begins to crack. You realize that your thoughts are not as solid as you believed. Your identity is not as real as it feels, and your reality might just be a constructed experience. It's not a loud awakening, it's a subtle disturbance. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's where everything changes. Because illusions don't disappear peacefully. They shatter, and they take a part of you with them. The truth doesn't set you free. It destroys everything you thought was real. After all the realization, after all the cracks in your reality, you arrive at a place where there are no more distractions left, no more excuses, just one question standing in front of you. What now? This outline is about that final moment of confrontation. You've seen enough to know something is wrong, but not enough to feel safe again. Now you must choose, do you go back to comfort, to the familiar illusion, or do you step into the unknown truth? This is not a philosophical question anymore, it's personal. Because whatever you choose will define the rest of your existence. Can you face the truth, or will you choose to forget it ever found you? You believe you are making choices every day. What to say, what to do, what path to follow. But what if your choices were never truly yours? This outline explores the disturbing idea that every decision you make is influenced by your past, your fears, your conditioning, your environment. Your mind calculates everything based on what it already knows, and then presents you with what feels like a choice. But is it really freedom or just a controlled response? Once you see this, even your own decisions begin to feel choice. If your choices are programmed, then whose life are you living? No one controls you directly, no one forced you into a cage. Yet somehow, you think exactly the way the system wants you to. Why? Because you were shaped, designed, built over time. This outline dives into how your environment, your upbringing, your society slowly constructed the person you are today. Your likes, your dislikes, your beliefs, none of them appeared randomly. They were planted, reinforced, and normalized. And now, you call them you. But what if you is just the result of everything that happened to you? You were not born this way. You were built this way. There is something within you that has never changed. Your body changed. Your thoughts changed. Your identity evolved, but something remains constant. This outline explores that silent observer, the part of you that watches everything. When you step back and observe your thoughts, you begin to see that you are not them, you are the one noticing them. And that realization is powerful, because it separates you from the prison. But it's also terrifying, because without your thoughts, who are you? You are not the voice, you are the one hearing it. People think addiction comes from substances, but the deepest addiction is thinking itself. This outline explores how you become addicted to your own thoughts. Constant noise, constant inner dialogue, constant imagination, Your mind never stops, and when it does, you feel uncomfortable, empty, lost, because you don't know how to exist without thinking. Your prison doesn't need walls, it runs on your need to keep thinking. You don't want silence, because silence would expose the truth. There comes a strange moment when everything around you starts to feel unreal. Conversations feel scripted, emotions feel forced, people feel like actors. This outline explores that unsettling experience when reality begins to lose its weight. It's not madness, it's awareness starting to rise. But it's also dangerous, because once everything feels fake, you begin to question everything, including yourself. When everything feels fake, maybe that's when you're finally seeing clearly. Here's the most disturbing truth. You are not just trapped in your prison, you protect it. This outline explores how you defend your beliefs, your identity, your way of thinking, even when they limit you. Why? Because without them, you don't know who you are. So you reject truth, resist change, and fight anything that threatens your mental structure. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. You are not just inside the prison, you are guarding it. You think you are afraid of change, but you are actually afraid of disappearing. This outline explores the fear that comes when you question your thoughts and identity. Because if your beliefs are false, then who are you? That fear is what keeps you stuck. It's not the truth that scares you. It's the loss of the person you think you are. You don't fear the truth. You fear becoming nothing. You blame the world, the system, the outside forces. But what if the real system is inside you? This outline explores how your mind operates like a system. Patterns, reactions, habits, loops, it runs automatically without your awareness. And until you understand it, you remain controlled by it. The system you are trying to escape is the one you carry within you. It doesn't happen loudly, no explosion, no warning, just a quiet moment when something clicks. This outline captures that moment when you suddenly realize you are not your thought. It's brief, but it changes everything. Because once you see it, you can't go back to being fully asleep again. One moment of truth can destroy a lifetime of illusion. Once you've seen enough, there's no returning to who you were. This outline explores the final stage when awareness has gone too far to ignore. You can't fully go back to sleep, but you're not fully free either. You're in between. And now you must evolve or suffer. Once you wake up, pretending to sleep becomes the hardest thing. It never happens the way you expect. No dramatic music, no sudden explosion of truth. Just a quiet moment where something inside you stops. You are doing something ordinary, scrolling, walking, thinking, and suddenly you notice not the world, but yourself, your thoughts, the way they appear, the way they disappear. And for the first time, you are not inside them, you are watching them. This outline dives deep into that rare moment of realization when the illusion of identity begins to weaken. You start to see that your thoughts are automatic, your reactions predictable, your identity constructed. And that realization doesn't feel exciting. It feels unsettling because everything you trusted begins to feel unstable. The mind tries to pull you back, to distract you, to make you forget, but something has already changed. A crack has formed, and through that crack, you glimpse something beyond thought, something silent, something real. But the deeper you go, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Because now you are not just questioning the world, you are questioning yourself. The moment you see your thoughts clearly is the moment they start losing control over you. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. That one realization that one crack in your perception. It changes everything. This outline explores what happens after awakening begins. Life doesn't suddenly become peaceful. In fact, it becomes more confusing. You can no longer fully believe your thoughts, but you don't yet know how to live without them. You feel disconnected from your old self, from people, from the world you once understood. Conversations feel shallow, goals feel meaningless, and yet there's something deeper pulling you forward. You're stuck between two worlds, the illusion you used to live in and the truth you don't fully understand yet. And this in-between state is painful, because there's no comfort here, only awareness, only clarity, and the question becomes, will you keep going or run back to the illusion? Once you wake up, going back to sleep feels like a lie you can no longer believe. Everything in your life has meaning, or at least that's what you've been told. Your goal, your struggle, your achievement, they all feel important, but what happens when that meaning starts to collapse? This outline explores the terrifying moment when you begin to question the purpose behind everything. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why does it matter? And the deeper you go, the more empty it all feels. Not because life is meaningless, but because the meaning you were given was never real. It was constructed, borrowed, conditioned, and now that it's falling apart, you're left with nothing. No clear direction, no solid identity, just awareness, and that silence can feel overwhelming, because without meaning, the ego has nothing to hold on to. When false meaning collapses, you either discover truth or fall into emptiness. You've always believed there is a you, a center, a core, something solid that defines who you are. But what if that you doesn't actually exist? This outline explores the unsettling idea that the self is an illusion, a collection of memories, thoughts, and experiences constantly changing, never fixed. When you observe deeply, you can't find a solid you anywhere. Just processes, just patterns. And this realization can feel like losing yourself, because the one thing you trusted the most turns out to be unstable. But hidden within that fear is a strange freedom, because if there is no fixed self, then there is nothing to protect, nothing to defend, nothing to fear losing. The moment the self disappears is the moment true freedom begins. Awareness is often described as something beautiful, something freeing, but no one talks about its darker side, loneliness. This outline explores what happens when you begin to see things others don't. When conversations feel shallow, when people seem lost in patterns you've already recognized, when you feel disconnected from the world around you. It's not that you're better, it's that you see differently. And that difference creates distance, because it becomes harder to relate, harder to pretend, harder to stay asleep. And sometimes you wish you could go back to not knowing, back to being comfortable. But awareness doesn't work like that. Once it's there, awareness doesn't isolate you from the world. It reveals how alone you already were. You've spent your entire life trying to control things, your future, your emotions, your outcome. But what if control itself is an illusion? This outline breaks down the idea that control is just a comforting belief. When you look closely, everything is happening on its own. Your thoughts arise on their own. Your emotions shift without warning. Even your decisions are influenced by factors you don't control. And yet, you hold on to the idea that you are in charge. Because without that belief, everything feels uncertain, unstable. But maybe that's the truth. Maybe control was never real, only the illusion of it. The moment you let go of control is the moment you see you never had it. This is where everything leads, not to answers, but to clarity. This outline represents the final stage, not a destination, but a shift. A deep understanding that nothing you believed was solid, and yet something within you remains untouched, beyond thought, beyond identity, beyond fear. It's not dramatic, it's quiet, still, clear. The struggle begins to fade, not because life changes, but because your relationship to it changes. You stop chasing, stop resisting, stop trying to become something. And in that stillness, something real emerges, not a new identity, but the absence of illusion. You were never trapped. You were just lost in what you believed yourself to be. And now, here you are. You've come too far to go back easily. You've looked at your thoughts, questioned them, and tried to trace them back to where they really come from. You've felt things that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. And now there's a strange silence inside you. The old comfort doesn't feel the same anymore, and the new truth still feels unclear. You are stuck in between, not fully asleep, but not fully awake either. And this place is the most uncomfortable place to be, because here no lie can truly comfort you, and no truth can fully settle you. Here you're left alone with yourself, without stories, without labels, without the identity you spent years building. And maybe for the first time you feel completely alone. But this is where everything truly begins. This journey was never about finding answers. It was about seeing, and every illusion that breaks brings you closer to something real. Now that you've seen this much, the question is no longer what you should do. The real question is whether you will run or stay and keep looking. Because the truth is, freedom is not something you gain. It happens when you stop holding on to what was never real. And now the choice is yours. Will you go back to sleep or finally wake up? You were never trapped. You just didn't know who you were.